Welcome. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak at Total Acre Houston. My first time at a Total Acre Clinic. Lots of fun out there. The whole idea of punching the chads through those little clips to get the gift cards, love it. I'm going to make sure I do that to my kids, and they're going to make sure they take that to school, social studies, geography, and history, to make sure that they win a university education, right? My name is Doug Baumann, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Vive Crop Protection. I'm joined by my colleague David Reif, our Northern Technical Agronomist. And today I'm absolutely thrilled to have a chance to talk about nano in ag. Nanotechnology in ag, and specifically something called the allosperse delivery system invented by Vive. So let's talk about nanotechnology and how the fact it's in the room, probably touching your body right now, and you probably haven't thought of it. And let's talk about why it hasn't come to agriculture in as big a way as I think it deserves to. So nanotechnology defined by being something incredibly small, right? Smaller than anything mankind has made before, but a bit bigger than a molecule. That's nano. And right now in 2024, nano is in about 5% of world GDP. And the nano that is probably close to your body right now is in your phone. So computers and semiconductors are about 50% of the nanotechnology in the world. A lot of the rest is in medicine. Some is coming to ag. Now 5%, just for a fun take-home number, 5% of the world GDP being dedicated to nanotechnology, if I add up all of the work that you do, for example, in primary commodity and produce production, and supply chain logistics to, for example, your local grocery store, and all of the restaurant sector, all the different ways that food goes from field to fork, that's also 5% of world GDP. That's how big nano is. Nano is as big as ag. And just like the phone example I gave you, nano is normally used to make existing products better. So when it was first envisioned maybe 40 years ago, almost everybody here will have heard some crazy science fiction. Nanotechnology, sir, is going to make little robots that live inside your veins and clean the cholesterol out. That is still science fiction. What nano has done is take the phone that is in your hotel room. So for anybody who's still in high school, the thing beside the bed that plugged into the wall, that's also a phone. It's turned that into the smartphones that we have today that's basically unrecognizable. And so where can nano make the impact in ag the way it has made an impact in making other things better in other parts of the world? The little map that I've got up here is not a Minecraft map. It's not a computer game map. It's a map of what topics has nanotechnology invention primarily focused on. And you really can't see ag here, but I'm very proud to say that if you go north of pharmacology and a little bit to the west, there's a little gray area there. And a lot of that is the 100+ patents that Vive has applied and of course been granted for nano in ag. So where's agriculture in the map? Vive is making our mark with 100 patents so far and 17 years in business. Talked about phones a little bit too much. Now I want to talk about paint. So nanotechnology for new features. Has anyone ever tried to sell white paint? Anyone ever work at a hardware store? Okay, so we're just going to agree together then that 3 different types of white paint on the surface do not have a lot of differentiation, right? White is white is white. However, the paint on your left is white paint in the sense that it looks white. You put it on a brush, you put it on your wall, then it dries, and that's all it does for you. The paints further to the right have used nanotechnology to take the basics of what a paint can do, and now let's make it so tough using nanotechnology that we can put it on the floor and it doesn't scratch. Or let's put it in our teenager's bathroom, where they always forget to turn the fan on after a shower, and every other paint has gone moldy and black, we can use nanotechnology to stop that. So when I talk about nanotechnology making existing products better, I'm also talking about a broad product, white paint that I put on everything, and turning that into a customized product that is better for your application or your application or your application, and perhaps to the point that you have all three of those in your basement. You still need the basic. You still need the flat-bladed screwdriver, which is also a chisel, which is also a pry bar. But then you need the paints that have the extra features in them. And that's kind of the nano story that we'll tell today, is talking about the new. So if you don't know Vive, the reason why I believe Vive has earned the right to be on stage is that we invested 11 years without $1 of revenue and 200,000 hours of scientists' time into understanding the nanoscale. And that resulted in this delivery system called Allosperse. Allosperse is really a bucket. It's a brand that covers quite a different number of different platforms. So Allosperse is not salt. It is a variety of different spices in your pantry, but I'll use the word interchangeably. Vive is very proud to have created the first EPA-registered nanotechnology in 2017. And then in 2023, we expanded geographically into Canada. Our Canadian government friends are a little bit more risk averse. Our EPA friends are very innovation friendly. So the EPA only took 3 years to decide Allosperse was a good idea. The Canadians decided they needed 8 years to decide it was a good idea. So let's talk about what Allosperse actually is. And I'm going to invite David up here to answer the question you all are really here for, which is, why is there butter on stage? And so the very first thing that I want to talk about Allosperse is, like, if I said nano 50 times, and my friend Alan here says, well, what's nano? And I say, Alan, it's nanotechnology. Like, the louder I speak doesn't make it easier to understand. So, yes, this was a dog toy. Yes, this was a cat toy. But for the purposes of today, let's just call it nanoparticle delivery. So this dog toy is really quite a good representation of what Allosperse is. It is a particle. I can see how big it is. It is squishy. It has different colors, which for us is different chemistry. And it's mostly hollow on the inside. And so these squishy little nanoparticles are what Allosperse is. And we'll change different parts of these particles to accomplish different things. Now, the very first thing that we used Allosperse to do was to make certain crop protection AIs better. So here David has got, let's call this a big old hunk of prothioconazole, and he's cutting that prothioconazole into 2 pieces. On the right-hand side, oh boy, you had better get your rights and lefts set, sir. On this side, you're going to see that 1 hunk of prothioconazole. And for the purposes of our demo, it's as if we've shrunk ourselves all the way down into nothingness. That is 1 particle of prothioconazole, according to how it's been manufactured by my friends at Bayer for over 20 years. And that 1 particle is about 10 billion molecules of prothioconazole. So now David is going to start cutting the other half of prothioconazole into the way that Vive does this. So Vive used Allosperse to change the manufacturing process of prothioconazole in this case, and you can make many more particles from the same butter using Allosperse. So across Vive's portfolio, we generally see an 8 to 64 times increase in the number of particles that we can create, and of course a corresponding decrease in size. So it's the same Kerry Gold brand prothioconazole you know and love, but it's in a different shape, different size, and it's better. Now if I was to look at this here, no, this is still you, sir. If David has got that 1 particle, let's talk about that 1 particle now landing on a leaf, or it's on a big old hunk of sourdough bread. Think about coverage and application quality. 1 big particle has got that much further to go between its nearest neighbor. You got to spread it out. It's got to wash out. Whereas clearly if I take those 8 particles and I distribute them nice and evenly over the same size sourdough, same piece of bread, same leaf, it's a lot easier to spread, right? So the way we did that, thank you so much, David. The way we did that, I've got this particle here, so this is the first and only time anyone will ever say that hunk of butter right there is actually this purple exercise ball, but I did just say that. So we got this guy here. The way it works is we take, and this is actually scale model accurate. I've got this allosperse here. If this is a 1 micron particle of active ingredient, 6,000 of these guys, boink, are what we put on the surface of this. And that melding, that fusion, that protection, that armor of 6,000 allosperse nanoparticles per 1 active ingredient, that is what allows us to get small. Now the next benefit, the next benefit of allosperse that we built in, slides please, is that you notice that we have different colors and different sizes, as I said, different chemistries. The next thing we did was say, hey, mixing with fertilizer is kind of a pain, because if I take a crop protection product that's water-based, that has particles in it, so pretty much any product that is opaque, if it looks like paint, that's what I'm talking about. If it looks like amber liquid, that's not what I'm talking about. So any crop protection product that looks like paint, when you add that to fertilizer, these particles end up crashing into one another pretty hard. And these particles aren't no Volvo, right? They're not safe. They're not designed to crash into one another. And so when they do, they stick and they agglomerate. My friends from Syngenta have had some experience when anyone tries to use Quadris in fertilizer. And that sticking in that agglomeration is what we were able to also prevent as Vive made crop protection better. And that's, again, this idea here. I talked about the stiffness or a crumple zone. And so when we built in the right stiffness, the right crumple zone into allosperse, you can allow these particles to bounce into one another, bounce off, and then get great dispersion in fertilizer. The FC line is Vive's most famous and most successful platform of nanotechnology, but it was also our first, and let's start looking at our next. Astronaut is a bio-enabled fungicide where we took the success of mixing and fertilizer and said, it is very difficult to bring bioproducts together with synthetics. I'm a little bit old school in that I love the idea of biologicals, but I'm still hesitant to give up a proper chemical. And so Vive's theory that you can bring bio and synthetics together really appealed to me. And so here we've created Astronaut, azoxystrobin group 11, Renutria group P5, brought them together. That's the first benefit of the nanotechnology. The second benefit was we also made it fertilizer compatible for those who wish. And then we built in the application advantage. So the Astronaut application advantage, and this is a type of graph you may have seen before. If you're landing a droplet of water on a leaf, right? Leaves don't really like to be wet. The water bounces off. Poor surface chemistry. If you're talking about a product like Quadris, which is engineered 20 years ago, to try and stick to the leaf, you see that the droplet lands, it half bounces back up, but not all the way. In Astronaut, we built in those shock absorbers I talked about, and so Astronaut lands on the leaf, spreads, and I don't even know the yoga pose, but I'm going to try it for you, and it stays, okay? So to build in Astronaut, fertilizer compatibility, a bio-enabled hybrid fungicide, and application performance, all molecules you know, just taken to the next level. Now let's talk about, the newest Vive product launching this year is Phobos FC. Phobos is a solo prothioconazole product. You would know prothioconazole from its famous grandparent, Proline. Here we're showing Cercospora leaf spot in sugar beet. Beautiful control, better yield. You can see the reduction in the number of leaf spots on your right. And of course, this is rate matched, but let's look at a graph. I'm a science guy. As a science guy first, or chemist first, I came to agronomy later, so I always dive through the leaves to get to the graph. Exactly the same amount of prothioconazole, right? Just like someone might say the exact same amount of lime on a field, but a different mesh lime, different performance of the exact same amount. Better optimization of the input for better control and a higher yield, right? So Vive's corporate purpose is to use precision chemistry to achieve real results with your help. Flip that around, Vive uses nanotechnology to give you optimized inputs for yield or more acres per hour, right? Yield or convenience. It's not, I don't think it's enough, quite frankly, just to show you, a graph saying we get yield, higher sugar, and so on. So what I did a few months ago was ask the team at our headquarters, peel this for me, go deeper. So here's the why of nanotechnology in Phobos. What we see in your top left is you see those are two replicates. Those are individual droplets drying, right? And those individual droplets drying have all those prothioconazole particles. And again, the particle needs to go from about 1 billion molecules in a particle to the actual individual molecule before it becomes bioactive, right? Sugar needs to be dissolved in your coffee before you can taste it. Exact same thing, right? As a systemic fungicide, that's what we're talking about right now. So we've got all these particles, and then now we're making sure in the Phobos on the top left that they're evenly distributed, and then in the leaf on the top right, you can also see that homogeneous. I didn't pick white paint by accident, right? Because our products tend to be white as well. Evenly distributed. Now in the Proline example, and credit to Bayer, by the way, because they invented prothioconazole. So as the original innovator, all the credit in the world to them. It's just that the product itself doesn't hold up against the advent of the nanotechnology, right? Anyone here old enough to have had a BlackBerry before they had an iPhone or a Samsung? Right? Did you love your BlackBerry when you had it? And then when you got rid of it, were you thrilled to get rid of it? Probably, right? Except for the physical keyboard part, I do still like that. So in the bottom left in the lab, what you see is that even droplet of prothioconazole, as it dries, it instead is channeling, and the particles are moving as the droplet dries. And so that's where we get this uneven, to me it looks like sand on a glass, right? Or sand in a riverbank as it dries up. And then on the bottom right, you see that because the droplet is unstable as it dries on the leaf, the active ingredient can move around, and in this case, we see channeling of that active ingredient into the veins of the leaf. All of the fungal spores don't know that that's where the active ingredient is, and I promise they don't all land on the vein of the leaf, right? Now, let's go one more level deeper. Yeah? Oh, this is going to be good. So the butter comes out next. So if you don't want to see bad things happen to the butter, just turn around now, okay? So this is what happens next. And Bruce, in a moment here, I'm going to need you, my friend in the back here. So I can't actually show you the nanoscale without a scanning electron microscope, which is one of the problems I think that scientists have in trying to communicate the value. But here I'm going to go as tight as I can. So top left, you see individual particles of prothioconazole. That is a dried deposit, and you see them pretty evenly distributed. And the bottom left, you see these strange windrows or eskers of what look like of the particles. And that is what we saw Proline doing when it dried in the previous slide. And now, Bruce, let's show how that happens. So Bruce, if you could please press play on the top right video, please. That's the bottom right, sir. Okay. Oh, you already did both. Well, that's anticlimactic. Bruce, could you please replay the top right video, at least for me? Here we go. So what's happening is this is now on the top right. This is a droplet that's full of liquid. As the video on the top right plays, you'll see the droplet shrink down and to the left, and that's air on the top right corner. Bruce, if you're able to play the top right video again, could you please do so? And so as you see that shrinkage, you'll see that the liquid is evaporating, the liquid front is moving, but it's leaving behind the particles in a nice even distribution. We'll watch the video another time. On the bottom right, what you're seeing is that same process of drying, so drying from the top right down to the bottom left, but you've got that huge band, that concentration of particles, and that becomes these little eskers that you see that reduce your application quality. And so this is the closest I can get to showing you how the nanotechnology works live, which is that we're changing how particles move in the drying, which changes their bioavailability. Now back to Kerry Gold. So whether or not I have one large particle, right, I haven't gotten the benefit of the nanotechnology, or if I have taken multiple particles and aggregated them together like you saw in the video, that's what David is going to put in the one frying pan. And here we're relying on this active ingredient, this butter. The melting of the butter is akin to the active ingredient dissolving into the waxy cuticle. And then David's going to plop the same amount of active ingredient in the frying pan, and I know everyone in the room knows what's going to happen, but we're going to get to see it and believe it. Plop it in there. This is going to smell like popcorn to me momentarily. I have no idea how far the smell will go, but we can hear it happening right now. So if I have one traditional particle of prothioconazole trying to melt its way into the waxy cuticle so that it can become systemic, versus 8, we can see what's happening here. Larger surface area, more exposure to the heat, faster dissolution, faster bioavailability. So if I try to take a nice old bow and I circle back to the field trial results you saw, when I have better bioavailability, faster bioavailability of the same amount of active ingredient, that's less time for UV degradation, shake off from wind, right? Everyone here has seen sprays fall off because of on a windy day. Rain, less concern about rain off. So by virtue of getting the AI into the plant faster, we're getting it safe where it can do its job. You're expert at this.
That's what you pay me for.
Okay. So that's the demo, that's the fun front end of what I think the power of nano is. I'm now going to we can cut from this here because we've got 2 slides on the potential future, right? One more, please. So I'm sure the EPA would like me to make sure I tell you that what you're about to see is not available for sale. This is a research stage technology, and I'm going to show 2 of them to you as a hint of what's going on in the future. There are times when the control you get from your active ingredient is limited by its distribution in soil. You've applied a seed treatment, but you have a soil-borne pest, and you don't get the soil zone of control that you need. Or you use an in-furrow product, and it binds hard to soil, and you don't get the control that you need. So Allo Reach temporarily changes the soil mobility of an active ingredient when you apply it with irrigation. And so, for example, this is an abamectin example for nematode control. Abamectin moves about 3/8 of an inch by itself, and Vive can move it 5 inches below ground. Clearly, from a turf grass perspective in this study, 5 inches is a huge improvement over the safe zone for those roots to grow. The next technology that Vive is bringing to the market is related to biologicals. So earlier I said I was a little bit old school and I wasn't ready to go all in on biologicals. However, I'm really happy to know that nano can make a difference here. And so with the right allosperse, Vive has been able to protect live biologicals from a variety of different environmental stimuli that would otherwise kill them. So for anyone who's ever wanted to put down live biologicals infertility, and you've been told, no, you can't do that. I've heard there's biologicals out there that require you to use dechlorinated spray water because they're so sensitive to contaminants in the water. So we've used AlloBio, a different nanotechnology, to basically give these guys some sunscreen, and we got 6 hours of viability of live biologicals. In this case, it was in a saddle tank. So we'll see where this goes in the future. Now, David, on to you, to the real world of nano today.
Thank you. All right, so hopefully you got a good look at Vive's technology, how that takes current active ingredients and future biologicals and turns them into better products for you as a farmer, not only optimizing them for agronomic performance, but also focusing on efficiency. And that's kind of the holy grail, right? Agronomic improvement and operational efficiency, because those two things really run hand in hand at the farm level. A few things that growers have done across the country, and I know a lot of you all are applying a lot of different products in a lot of different ways. And a lot of you have probably experienced some challenges in trying to put those all together in the tank. From an operational efficiency standpoint, Doug really highlighted the fertilizer compatibility of our products today. And again, that's not just with fertilizer, but that's with other ag inputs that you would like to use. This grower in particular, he's got the kitchen sink approach, right? He's got 7 different products in the tank, including sugar, zinc, sulfur, and a starter fertilizer. Most standard active ingredient products that you would put in the tank would turn right to cottage cheese and cause you some very large problems. I've grown up on a farm, and I've been a part of those days where you plug up a planter and it's not typically an enjoyable moment. So Vive's products can just not only give you new tools to manage pests and diseases on your farm, but also give you new tools to improve your operational efficiency at the farm gate. Because getting those crops up and out of the ground and moving as fast as possible is incredibly important to your end-of-year success. A couple quick products that I would like to highlight is Asteroid FC 3.3. This has been our longest running product in the market, and we're getting a lot of really good traction with it in a multitude of crops. Today we're going to specifically focus on corn and how Asteroid improves plant stands in adverse weather conditions. I'm from Michigan, upper Midwest. You get a lot of days, it doesn't matter where you're in the country, you generally get that nice, perfect planting window. Last year in Iowa, April 12th, I think it was like 75, 80 degrees there for a week, right? A lot of planters got rolling. Then it cooled down. We talked about the plants got planted right, and then we got really cold, wet weather afterwards, which created a very challenging environment for those corn plants. With Asteroid and Furrow, we were just able to help improve the emergence of that crop, protect it from seedling diseases. So when your plant is stressed early, you are much more likely to have seedling diseases attack and infect that plant just because it's not growing quick enough to outgrow them. And when we were working with Chad, who's a Total Acre grower, we very much noticed when we were looking at each of the strips that there was a lot more of these little weeds out there. Total plant stand was there. He just had way more weed corn, I'll say, out there than he did in the treated with the Asteroid. And at the end of the day, it ended up being about a 5-bushel increase on his farm, which is incremental yields is always a great way to go. When you guys are pushing things to the limit, if you can get those incremental yield gains, that's a really great win at the end of the day. You have all heard Missy Bauer talk. She has done actually 3 years of work with Asteroid. And I've personally visited these fields, and she has not in every situation, but dang near most situations, we see improved vigor from an in-furrow treatment of Asteroid. And it's something to do with the Strobe effect, protecting the crown, protecting the roots of that early seedling, and just helping reduce stress from planting all the way through that V5, V7 window so that you can then move to other management options to take care of the crop from there on. A few more Total Acre grower results with Jason in Ohio. Jason experienced, when this trial was placed, we wanted to target early planting in a field with a history of crown rot, and that's what we got in this field. Jason planted this field. I actually personally visited it. When I went out there, I was like, oh man, I don't see any difference out here. Everything looks exactly the same. However, when the yield monitor came back and I talked to Jason post-season, he had noticed that he did see improved stands when he did his final stand counts, and he also saw fewer ghosted plants. So helping keep that crown and roots of that crop healthy early in the season contributed to some really nice yield results late in the season. And that was purely based on a crown rot incidence, just because he had troubles with that disease. And it seems like crown rot, root rot is becoming a little bit more of a problem across the U.S. I really like this slide. Some of you may have seen this in Missy's breakouts or something like this, but Missy Bauer at B&M Consulting, she has done 3 years of work with Asteroid. And as farmers, and especially, I look at the commodity markets as much as I look at the weather, which if you're farmers, how many times have you checked them today already? Too many. I know that this year's a tougher year, and you need consistent products that pay on the farm. And with this work, we've seen, I think we have 15 trials, and we've got a range from 0.3 to 15.7. And this is all of her data. And the cool part, number one, is there's not one negative on there, which is pretty dang awesome. The other cool part is that you can kind of see the range and spectrum across fields, across years, across conditions, across environments, and what can happen. And Asteroid works great both as an in-furrow and as a 2x2 application with an average of around 5.3 bushels, which is more than enough pays for the product, if not doubles your money or more. But just very cool that, if you do have problems, early planted, cold soils, wet soils, you can get a really nice yield response. Planting late, which is what we see with that 0.3 bushel increase, is kind of what we'd expect. You're planting into warm, hot soils, that crop is coming up out of the ground and not really running into any environmental conditions after that. So Asteroid's really a nice hedge on those early planting conditions when you're not quite sure what the weather's going to do afterwards. Switching gears to Averland FC. Averland is actually an in-furrow nematicide for your corn. This is one thing that has actually shocked me with working with Vive and as I've gotten across the Midwest more, is just how many corn nematodes are actually out there. And they're kind of the hidden yield robber that you may or may not be aware of that's on your farm. To Pioneer's credit, there's some information online that they did around, I think it was like 1,300 soil samples, nematode soil tests across the Midwest for over 3 years. And it was shocking to me how many soil samples came back at medium to high levels of corn nematodes. And in a lot of the farms that we've walked on this summer, we've dug roots, we've been out there, we've done some Averland plots, and from the field surface, you might not see any difference whatsoever. But then when you start digging and looking at the roots, you can tell just a massive difference between the Averland treated and the untreated. And those nematodes are attacking those roots all season long. And if that corn is not able to outgrow them, they can cause some very large challenges later on in the season when it gets hot and dry. You think about water transport, the capillary action, nutrient uptake. It's going to be very challenging if you do have nematodes as an issue on your farm. I like this slide a lot just because this is Iowa. This grower had not thought or had not tested for nematodes. You see the picture there. That's a nice green field of corn. This is Iowa black, great dirt. And when myself and the grower, we were out there looking at this field, you didn't see any difference whatsoever early on in the season. However, when we dug and took in soil samples to get nematode counts, they came back at medium high to high. Also, when we looked at our aerial imagery later on in the season of where Averland was placed, it was very clear that there was a plant health difference, mainly because it was hot and dry, and the Averland had better root system underneath it to keep pulling up water, to keep pulling up nutrients later on in the season. And so it's just one of those areas of the field. I know I saw it the other day, the bucket of water, right? If your lowest limiting yield factor. If you haven't checked out nematodes levels on your farm, if you've got some problem areas that you just can't seem to figure out, can't seem to get them up, this could be a concern that you need to potentially look into and send in some soil samples to some labs. All right, shifting gears to Astronaut. Doug touched on Astronaut and how we're being able to bring in biologicals into the standard synthetic chemical world. Biologicals, there's tons of different kinds, from soil amendments to nutrient products that make nutrients more available, but there's also biofungicides, bioinsecticides, bionematicides, bioherbicides. And as it gets harder and harder for companies to bring new molecules, new AIs to market, biologicals, I think, are going to continue to be an important role in the future of crop protection. And this is Vive's first look at this with Astronaut. I like to compare Astronaut and some of these type products to trucks. A lot of people have F-150s. You've got your standard internal combustion engine with your standard synthetic chemistry product on the far left. Get you from A to B. You've leaned on it for several years and it's performed well. In the middle, you have your hybrid, right? You start to have these green energy benefits. More torque, more horsepower, more range, more mileage. It's taking your internal combustion engine, beefing it up, making it better, giving you more out of it. And then on the far right, you've got an F-150 Lightning. How many of you thought about buying one of those? Nobody. Biologicals, in my opinion, are part of the future, at least from a crop protection standpoint. I know there's a lot of them used from a soil standpoint, but from a bioinsecticide, biopesticide standpoint, I think they've got a long way to go, and a long way to go before farmers trust them. So to me, the hybrid model is the way of the future today. It takes all of the products you know and love, stacks the nice green benefits of the biologicals in there, gets you more power, gets you more range, gets you more horsepower, and that's exactly what we're seeing out of Astronaut. Really nice plant health benefits. This application was applied at V5 and just helped keep things green late into season. The synthetic and the biologicals work very nicely together to give you some really nice plant health benefits. And plant health, that term gets thrown out a lot, but that can mean a lot of things, from better nitrogen utilization to increased photosynthesis to increased chlorophyll content to better nutrient transport in the plant. And that's what some of these things are doing together here. So with that, that's some of our key products that Vive focuses on. We actually do have an exclusive offer for Total Acre growers that we're working with. If you haven't chatted with us in the booth at the back, we've got these little cards. You do need to sign up because that'll trigger one of our sales managers to reach out to you and have a deeper discussion with you, so that you can place these products on your farm appropriately. And these are actually some very nice rebates in a tougher commodity market year, and you're watching your inputs. These are some nice things to focus on. We do sell to most folks. However, we do not sell our products through everybody. So again, another good reason to reach out to your sales manager, just so you can know where to purchase Vive products from. And with that, we will end it. If anybody wants some butter, you're more than welcome to go get something from the lunch line and dip it in there. But thank you for your time. Appreciate your support, and chat with us out in the hall with any questions. Thank you.